Welcome to Compassionate Cultures, the podcast. You're about to go on a journey of empathy, understanding, and transformation. Get ready to dive into the heart of humanity's most pressing questions with me, Rebecca Hemmings, the CEO of Strawberry Words Training Consultancy, and guests. It's time to turn up the volume on kindness and to amplify the voices of minorities that often go unheard. This podcast asks questions like, how can we create workplaces where ethnic minorities thrive without the chains of career stagnation? What if universities were safe havens for all, free from the storm of microaggressions? And how can we bridge the gaps between cultures that have been divided by the walls of bias and ignorance? This is not just a podcast. This is a revolution of empathy. Welcome to Compassionate Cultures, the podcast. Get ready to explore, learn, and change the world one compassionate conversation at a time. Okay, so welcome back, everybody, to the Compassionate Cultures podcast. We've had a bit of a break for Easter, and so whenever there is a break and I haven't had the chance to announce it, I'm taking a break because, 2 episodes a week can be a bit full on sometimes. So generally the bigger holidays, and certainly I'll make the announcement now, summer, we're off. I'm off. So 5 ways to reach the hard to reach. That's what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about it because we're often asked to reach out to particularly Black or other ethnic minority communities. And because it's something that we've done, we know there are certain steps to take. Yes, there is an advantage of being myself from an African Caribbean background and having established relationships. But also I know that if we were to, reach out to a new community, the Chinese community or Filipino or Gypsy Roma traveller, for instance, I know there are certain steps that need to be taken in order to reach those people. I know they're not hard to reach. It's just knowing which steps are needed to be taken in order to be able to make connection. Okay, so that's what I'm going through today. And yes, when I talk about hard to reach, I am specifically talking about ethnic minority communities. So it could be that as an organization, you're wanting to reach out to ethnic minority communities, whether it's for, a project, or it's for consultation, or even for employment, recruitment, that kind of thing, okay? There are steps to be taken. So the first pointer I've got for you is a mindset shift. Often people think this is such a difficult job because they have this label of these groups being hard to reach. They're not if you know the right steps. They're not if you know the right people. So I think, think about what happens when you believe that. If you're going into a project believing, it's going to be really difficult to engage with this group of people, what's that going to mean? How are you going to show up to that task? I know that what often happens is that because people have given those groups those labels, people have used many excuses as to why, or use that as an excuse as to why a project hasn't been successful, when really why a project hasn't been successful is because not enough work was done to reach those people. I'm just going to keep it real, okay? So what I'd say is flip that around, okay? And this might sound a bit woo-woo, but just think, actually, these people are really easy to reach when you know the right steps. And I'm going to help you with some of that today, right? Okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll give you the basics. Okay, so that's number 1, change your mindset. Number 2, test assumptions. So again, this is still some of the mindset work. Test assumptions. So a lot of assumptions are made about particular communities as to why they're hard to reach. So maybe, for instance, you've heard, Chinese people don't work in construction, or there aren't enough qualified Black people to take on a managerial role, for instance. Well, how do you know this is true? Test the assumption, okay? How do you know it's true? Where's the evidence for this, okay? Because, we all have blind spots. And so you could be hearing this, oh no, I've never seen, an ex-person do this, or they're really hard to find. How do they know? Maybe that's just in their experience. And as I said, we all have blind spots, and we tend to be around people who share our blind spots, which then forms collective blind spots. So therefore, if you're around a group of people who believe, well, those people don't do that, then you might then believe that's true. But it's not true. It's just based on a group of people's collective beliefs. Unless you have the evidence, it's not true. Okay? So then to go beyond that, go beyond the assumptions. If you can't find evidence that this is true, okay, then assume that actually, no, they are out there. We've just got to do the work to find them. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, and it's a lovely one. It's a lovely one. Find the connectors. What do I mean by that? Well, firstly, the connectors, they are your best friends, they are your allies. So a connector is someone who is in some way associated already with the groups of people that you want to be in touch with, okay? They are trusted, they're obviously professionals, people know them, so they're known within their community, and they're also known perhaps in the area of work that you're in, or at least that kind of thing. So they understand, they can speak your language and they can speak the language of the community, if that's what we're saying there. Okay, so what's really important is that they are trusted by the community. So they act as that midway point to get you to those people. Now, obviously you need to gain the trust of the connector and be really open and honest about what it is you're trying to do. And, if it's a job, obviously make sure they're well compensated. But yeah, it's just being totally upfront and authentic about what the desire is. So we would like to, consult a group of.
Hey, I know you're enjoying the podcast episode, but I just want to quickly come in and say, look, if you're an organization that needs anti-racism training for your organization because your staff are lacking in a racial literacy, they don't have the words, they get stuck when talking about racism, they want to be able to deal with incidents, but they're not sure how to, then check out our Time to Talk About Race online CPD accredited course at strawberrywords.co.uk. Okay, we can train from 10 to 10,000, but get in touch today at admin@strawberrywords.co.uk. Now back to the episode.
X people, can you help us with that? We know you're well connected within that community. Now, this doesn't just have to be an individual, it can be an organization. So again, there are plenty of organizations, charities, community organizations, and so on that are already working with the communities that you're wanting to reach out to. And with recruitment, it's similar, but then you've got to be a bit more niched because obviously you're looking for someone to fulfill a certain role. But again, there will still be people who are in touch with the types of people you're trying to get to know. All right, so build relationships with those organizations and with those individuals. And I should say, I've been in that role many times as an individual and as a representative of Strawberry Words, where we've been asked to, for one organization, for instance, we were asked to diversify the membership. And for me, it was very easy. I loved the role. Because it just meant going out, having lots of lovely conversations. And for groups of people that aren't used to, hearing about the opportunities that this organisation was presenting, again, this was music to their ears, and to have this type of information passed on by someone who looks like them, somebody, they can trust. Again, it was a win-win-win situation, a win for everybody. So your connectors really are your best friends, but it's really important that the relationships with these connectors are genuine, because if they catch wind, if they feel as though what you're doing is tokenistic, you're not going to get the best from them. And that's if they decide to work with you at all. So don't try and pull the wool over their eyes. Don't just do this to tick a box. You have to be wanting to genuinely build relationships. You have to remember that ethnic minorities are so used to being on the receiving end of tick box that we can smell them a mile away. Okay, so if it's not genuine, you might want to sit back and think again and think, actually, how can we genuinely do this for the long term? Because that's also something you've got to think about. This work around, diversifying or including ethnic minorities in projects and jobs and so on, it's an ongoing thing. The work doesn't stop, okay? So think long term, think how you can do this on a regular basis. How can this be built into action plans and strategies or meetings? How can you, as an organization, how can the organization be regularly meeting or being exposed to connectors, okay? Because as I said, they will be your best friend. Okay, number 4, make your communications inclusive and accessible, okay? Because it's all very well having opportunities for people to participate, to get a job and so on. But if people don't see themselves or can't even really decipher what it is you're offering, because maybe there's not been a large text version of what you've got on your website, or maybe because people don't see images of people who look like them, or maybe because the language is so deeply filled with jargon that they just can't read past that first acronym. So you really have to make it plain and clear, and be aware of bias as well in comms. So for instance, actually I picked something out which I'm going to use as an example. So this is a posting for a job that I saw. I'm going to take out some of the information so that it's the organization isn't easily identified, and then I'll give you another version which I think would be a bit easier for people to read through. Okay, so this is what I picked up. So it says, dynamic and detailed freelance X wanted for X to inspire our dedicated students and nurture the next round of future talent. X should have a strong pedagogy to supplement their X approach. Now, on the surface, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? It just says what it is, okay? They want somebody who's, really great. They've got a teaching background. They're really exciting, and they care about the detail and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's all very well. If you come from a background where that's the language that you're used to hearing, that speaks to a certain type of person with a certain type of experience, with a certain type of education, and so on. But there could be many more people out there who could do the role, perhaps in a more dynamic and rich way, or a different way that still offers lots of value, but because they don't see themselves within that description, they don't apply, okay? So I've had a go at rewriting this, and bear with me, it took me like 2 minutes to do it, and if I was doing this properly, I'd spend more time on it. But just to give you an example of how you could change that. So I've said, we are seeking someone who has 1, 2, 3 skills, okay, to deliver our program of work to uplift and inspire our students to help them become the best versions of themselves. We would love it if you have a teaching or training background or similar experience, ... So can you see that I've made the language less formal? It's slightly more warm and friendly, and it's very clear in its ask. And so no one's saying, babyfy your language. No one's saying that. What we are saying, or what I am saying, is just make it a lot clearer, and also just make it a bit more friendly as well. You can still be a professional company and be friendly, okay? Because again, you have to remember, particularly ethnic minorities are used to being on the receiving end of really just not nice treatments, being seen as the other, being seen as the bad person, and so on. And so just a little bit of friendliness and warmth goes a long way. Okay, let me move on. Number 5, last one. And this is a big one again. don't expect them to come to you or to find you. So again, often people will say, well, we've put this all over our websites, and it's all over our social media. We put it in, if it's an educational post, Times Educational Supplement, or I don't know, Guardian, wherever it is, or I don't know, those kind of typical places that certain roles go to. But maybe, and quite possibly, the reason why you're not getting the groups of people that you want to applying to these is because they aren't looking on your website or on your social media or in those same places that you're advertising. So you've got to do the outreach work, find out where they are hanging out, find out where they're hanging out online. Where are the social media groups? What are the pages within your industry that they are looking at and engaged with? What magazines are they reading? What podcasts or radio stations are they listening to? And then utilize those, okay? Again, your connector can help you finding where people hang out. But it's important that you reach out to them and not expect them to come to you, which happens far too often. So that's it. I hope that's been useful to you. Hope you've been taking notes. If not, but why not? It's important, right? So that's it. I'll see you next time. Don't forget, if you like this episode and you think it can be useful to someone, share it, like it, comment on it, and if you can help you with anything, then get in touch. strawberrywords.co.uk. Bye.